Hi, my name is Maddie Hollis. I'm a park ranger here at the Fredericksburg and Spotsylvania National Military Park, and I'm standing here at the Stonewall Jackson death site. Behind me is the building where General Thomas Jackson died after the Battle of Chancellorsville, and the office building here was part of a larger plantation known as Fairfield. At the time of the Battle of Chancellorsville, Fairfield was located here along the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac Railroad, and on the opposite side of the railroad tracks from here was a railroad station known as Guinea Station. After the Battle of Fredericksburg in December of 1862, Confederate General Robert E. Lee held on to his defenses at Fredericksburg and sent a portion of his army to camp here around Guinea Station. From the winter of 1862 into the spring of 1863, Guinea Station served as the main supply depot for Lee's Confederate Army. By the spring of 1863, the state of Virginia as a whole suffered from severe supply shortages that were caused by things such as a lack of agricultural production during the winter months, the blockade of southern ports, and inflation that resulted from the Confederacy's own policies. Civilians were hit hard by these shortages in Virginia, especially women who were left at home to fare for themselves. And it was a group of women who actually took to the streets of Richmond on April 2nd, 1863, in what is known as the Richmond Bread Riot. For their involvement, about 60 people were arrested after this riot, and the Confederate government and the Southern press worked to limit the spread of information about this riot. Few soldiers in Lee's army wrote about the bread riot within their diaries and letters. One soldier who did mention the riot was Charles Minor Blackford of the 2nd Virginia Cavalry, and he wrote on April 2nd, "Rumors of a bread riot in Richmond. Lee has enjoined the editors to say nothing about it, and of course there are 1,000 wild rumors." William White of the Richmond Howitzers wrote on April 6th, "The Richmond papers are teeming with an account of a bread riot that took place there a few days since. It will undoubtedly have an injurious effect upon our cause abroad and will give new impetus to our enemies." Most soldiers in Lee's army did not make mention of the Richmond bread riot, but they did write about supply issues and how they were affecting their daily lives. Richard Henry Brooks of the 51st Georgia Infantry wrote a letter to his wife who had complained of her ability to take care of herself, and he told her, "You will have to do the best you can, for I do not know what is best for you to do. I will say to you that our fare is very bad here. We can live on what we get to eat by spending about all that we make." General Robert E. Lee responded to these shortages within his army by sending about 15,000 of his soldiers south to Suffolk, Virginia to forage for supplies. And on April 15th, he ordered his soldiers to limit their supplies as much as possible. The U.S. Army of the Potomac, which was encamped north of Fredericksburg, learned about these issues that Lee's army was facing. Back in January of 1863, Joseph Hooker was appointed as the head of the Army of the Potomac, and during that time, he created a new intelligence organization, the Bureau of Military Information. The Bureau of Military Information learned that Lee had sent a portion of his army away, and he learned from Confederate prisoners that they were out of food. He also had outside help. For example, the superintendent of the railroad company here, Samuel Ruth, doubled as a Unionist spy, and he sent information to Hooker's army about the supply trains coming up from Richmond each day. With this information, Joseph Hooker planned to cut Lee's supply line, maneuver around his defenses at Fredericksburg, and draw the Confederates into a battle. Despite the tactical victory that Lee won at Fredericksburg in December, he went into the spring of 1863 with few options. Lee would go on to win a victory at Chancellorsville as well, although this victory did not alleviate the major problems that the Confederacy faced.